Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review, and the topic we'll be doing for this video is a 1991 remake, Cape Fear. And of course, it's Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, Juliette Lewis, plus cameos from the original Cape Fear movie, which we're going to get into as well. But like I said, this is a remake of the 1962 film of the same name, and with the same names of the characters. Now, even though there's a more Scorsese version, and even though this movie is a little bit creepy and a little bit darker in some ways, which I will get into, but it also changed a little, knowing its tone a little bit different compared with 1981 audiences. It also changed some of the facts of the original story. And like I said, in 1962, the original 1962 version stars Gregory Peck, Robert Mitchum as the two main characters, along with Warren Blossom, who, and all three of them make cameos in this film. And also, Polly Bergen also appeared in the original as Gregory Peck's wife. And also, both versions, the main family has a daughter. I don't remember who played the daughter in the original film, but this one was Juliette Lewis. And I think it was really her first real big movie role. And of course, the major change that they had with the two versions was in 1962. For those who don't know the story, it's about a lawyer named Sam Bowen was being terrorized by a former ex-cop by the name of Max Cady. In the original version, Gregory Peck played Sam Bowen, and Max Cady was played by Robert Mitchum. In the original 1962 version, it was the fact that they said, they changed it in the 91 version, which I'm going to get into. The original story was that Gregory Peck was a lawyer who was defending somebody in Chicago or Philadelphia or something. And as he was walking back to his hotel, he saw Max Cady, played by Robert Mitchum, assaulting this girl. And he came back out and testified in the trial, and Max Cady was sentenced to about 12 to 15 years in jail. And Max Cady got out on parole and started getting even with the guy who testified against him in the trial. And that's pretty much what the rest of the movie is, playing like a little cat and mouse game or battle of wits and battle of nerves between the two actors throughout the rest of the film. And of course, at the end of the film, they had this big confrontation in Cape Fear, which is I think north or South Carolina. I think one of the Carolinas. And spoiler cases, so those of you who never saw the original film, I think it's like once on YouTube by ports, not the whole thing in one shot. I think because of copyright rules, it's not on YouTube anymore. There's another little thing of getting into YouTube with copyright stuff. But what they did was nobody dies at the end of the original film. Well, that obviously changes in the remake. And the remake, like I said, the remake, which came out in 1991, they wrote in problems within the family, which was also not in the 62 version. They decided, because of course the early 1960s, it's a little bit more of an innocent time with family. All families are going to stick together and all that type of stuff. Well, in 1991, everybody's dysfunctional. And that's what happened. That's what happened in this film. That Nick Nolte spent for womanizer, and you meet the girl that he was kind of sitting on the side, but he wasn't fooling around having sex with her. He was just hanging out with her all the time on the side. And I forgot the actress who played that particular part, which was great. And she's not exactly ugly either, but she was working in the courthouse. In the remake, like I said earlier, in the remake, Gregory Peck testifying against Robert Mitchum in the trial. In the original version, in the remake, the Martin Scorsese remake, they kind of changed the thing, that Sam Bowen represented Max Cady in a rape and aggravated sexual battery case, and he went to jail for 15 years. And of course, when he finished his sentence, that's when he got out and started terrorizing the Sam Bowen character, which they moved to a small town in also South Carolina near Cape Fear, or Cape Fear, not that far, like a few hours away from where they were. And they buried it a little bit. And the reason why Max Cady in this particular film went after his lawyer wasn't just because of the obvious that he got convicted. It was the fact that supposedly Sam Bowen had evidence against the girls that Max Cady attacked, against her character. And the character was that supposedly they found evidence that the girl was fooling around with a bunch of guys, was promiscuous, as they say. And because of that, it could have ruined the girl's character and going against her credibility because she was fooling around with a whole bunch of guys. And so because of that, he got an extra 5 to 10 years in jail. So because of that, when Max Cady found out about it, that's when he decided when he got out of jail to go after his lawyer. So it's pretty much, the particular storylines were pretty much the same, other than the fact that it's much more of a darker tone in the 1991 remake. And Robert De Niro's performance was terrific in this thing. I mean, he gives a terrific performance. And when the cameos come in, there was one particular sequence where Max Cady does attack the girl that Sam Bowen was seeing, and which was a pretty explicit scene, because it takes like a bite out of a chore, out of her cheek. He goes, "I got you now, bitch," and attacks her and rapes her in his apartment. And of course, Sam Bowen's character, or the naughty character, wanted to do like a quote-unquote hospital job on Cady, and he did a whole thing where 4 guys beat Max Cady to a piece of the crap out of him, and then of course Sam Bowen was hiding behind like this dumpster, and he turns around behind the little hiding space, and he actually kicks a can. Max Cady, Robert De Niro heard it, and he goes, come out, wherever you are," like a real creepy, voice. And of course, that's when Gregory Peck comes in and defends Robert De Niro's character, Max Cady character. And of course, the judge was Warren Blossom, who played the cop in the original Cape Fear film. And of course, Robert Mitchum, who of course played Max Cady in the original film, Cape Fear film, plays the cop in the remake. So I think it's kind of a nice little touch that Martin Scorsese did, putting the 3 actors, or at least the 2 main characters in the original Cape Fear in the remake, which is a great touch. And the cop also, Warren Blossom's character, also in there. I think that was like the last role that Warren Blossom had, I think, because I think he died like a couple of years later. But on the DVD that I have here, they have very, very good. Well, this is a 2-disc. They have a 2-disc. A 2-disc set. One, of course, has the. Well, this one has the movie on. This one has. It doesn't have the original movie on this set as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that. But it has the original, like a documentary on, it's like over an hour documentary. but how they decided to make the various changes of the original story of this one. And one thing they kept was Bernard Herrmann's score. Because Bernard Herrmann wrote the original score of the 1962 version. They kept that score in there. But it was also a nice little change in it. And it was, I think it's a great little thriller. In my opinion, the original, this version and the original one, which I only saw like mostly bits and pieces, but I got like pretty much suggested, but I only saw like the ending like once. I didn't really care for the ending in the original one. But this one has Robert De Niro's character, Max Cady character. Spoiler, most of you never seen the movie. Robert De Niro's character does drown in the end of the film while he was speaking in tongues. And of course, one thing that they did change in the remake from the original film is that it made the Sam Bourne character so incompetent. What I mean by that is that he couldn't. There's one particular scene. They did a love scene with Jessica Lange who played the wife. She was great in this film as well. All the performances were terrific. When they did the sex scene, it's like she wasn't satisfied. That Nick Nolte could never satisfy her. Then they had another scene where, the big fight scene in the end where Nick Nolte couldn't kill Robert De Niro. He says, "I want to kill you," and all that stuff, and he kept missing the target all the time. And they had this big fight on the beach at Cape Fear, and Nick Nolte picked up a big rock and smashed him with it, and the tide took Robert De Niro because he was handcuffed to a board. One of the last pieces of the boathouse they had, and he was going to grab the rocks and smash Robert De Niro's head in. But then the tide came, pulled the piece of metal or the board that Robert De Niro was handcuffed to and pulled him off the sea. And then they pulled him down. And so he still couldn't kill him at the end of the movie. But he drowns but Robert De Niro does drown at the end of the film and does die. So he did have a death that only on modern day audiences wanted. That's kind of like what they did with Fatal Attraction almost, but in a different way. They actually filmed it that way. Unlike in Fatal Attraction, which I mentioned previously, in which they had a different ending. But they wanted an ending where she gets killed, gets shot. This time, nobody gets shot. There is another death when John Baker, who plays the private investigator, he does get killed by Robert De Niro in this film, and they do have a good little scene early on where he gets made out. When Robert De Niro realized he was being followed by his private investigator, and they had a good little scene in there. But in terms of the film, I do like the remake. I do like the remake, despite it's a much darker tone and it's different tone than the original one. The thing the original one isn't good, but both versions are good. Please check out both versions of Cape Fear if you never see both versions. And like I said, it's almost pretty much the same story with the slight variances in it. So my review of Cape Fear. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Feel free to comment. Please subscribe to my channel, and please follow the video on your Facebook pages. Thanks for watching.